let's move on to question number 4. And it says, "Hey, Katie, I hope you're doing well. When I'm experiencing the very low lows of my mental health, I find myself in an uncontrollable deep dive into mental health educational content." Ooh, yeah, people can do this. "I'll re-listen to your podcast that I've already listened to repeatedly and binge your YouTube videos in a totally not creepy way." That's what they're there for, to be a resource. "It's almost as if focusing my time and energy directly into what I'm suffering with is a coping mechanism." It could be. It's almost like proving to yourself that you have a right to feel how you feel, maybe. "It brings a lot of comfort and validation to me and allows me to quote unquote check out. Unfortunately, I feel like it hinders my recovery as it feels like I'm intentionally placing myself into a position of dwelling on my mental illness, but I can't stop it. Obsessively researching what I've been going through is something I've done since I was a preteen, and I'm 21 currently. It has helped me get through a lot of traumatic experiences since I never openly shared them with my parents until now in life. Is this a form of maladaptive daydreaming? I wouldn't say it's that. Does this stem from attachment to my mental illness? I wouldn't even say it's that. Or is it a reflection of the trauma I've experienced? Also, this is an issue. Is this an issue worth bringing up with my therapist? I just started going. Thanks. Yes, bring this up with your therapist. Now, I think it's potentially a reflection of the trauma you've experienced. I do not think it stems from attachment to your mental illness. I don't even believe that's a thing. I know that we can identify and believe that our mental illness is like who we are, not just something that we're struggling with or something that we're trying to manage, which I think is a little bit unhealthy. We should see it in the same way. I wouldn't say like I am the flu virus if I got the flu, or I am, strep throat. I would just say I have it. And I think that externalizing mental illness in that way is really healthy and really helpful and allows us to come up with better solutions for it and better ways to manage. And we can be more motivated and more apt to make change when we don't feel like it's part of who I am, I know that that's like easier said than done, but I think that's really key in understanding your mental illness and overcoming it, making it more manageable, right? So, okay. When you want to deep dive into educational content in a way, so there's 2 things that I think are happening here. Number 1, I would be suspicious of the fact that I think, or I guess my hypothesis is that by binging on this kind of educational content, we are trying to prove that we deserve to feel how we feel, that we actually have a mental illness and we have a right to whatever, right? We're like trying to make ourselves feel like how we're doing is warranted. We're like wanting to get proof or validation, which is fine some of the time. But I mean, if you were my patient, my encouragement to you would be like, how can you offer that to yourself without the use of, Katie's podcasts and videos? I love that they're a resource for you, but it sounds like in some ways they might be hindering, right? So we've got to figure this out. So I'd be curious about that, and I'd ask you questions, and I'd want you to try to come up with some other ways to offer it to yourself. And what does that look like? And why is it that you only believe it if someone else says it? I'd be very curious about that. And then it can also, so that's one, right? Remember I said there are 2. The second is I find, at least from my patients, and maybe this is because I specialize in eating disorder treatment and self-injury, but a lot of my patients have told me that they use information like that kind of as a way to self-injure, almost like to re-traumatize or re-upset themselves. And because so hear me out. This is gonna sound strange, but I'm just here to tell you this is very common. The reason we use it so much in the same way that traditional self-injury, like if we are cutting or burning ourselves or hurting ourselves in some way, it gives us a release and it can feel like an expression of all the pain that we feel. And so when we're using videos, podcasts, and these outside resources, it's almost like we're re-injuring ourselves with the pain of whatever it is, right? We're hearing someone talk about it. And we're like, yeah. And it feels soothing because it's expressing what we're going through in a way we can't. So it's like we're injuring ourselves with that information because it's not making you feel better. You don't think it's actually helpful. In the same way, self-injury, people, are like, oh, it helps, but then it makes things worse and then I don't like it and it can be just like that. So I think in some ways when we obsessively research and read and watch and listen and do all this stuff to learn more about ourselves, I think in some ways we're like kind of self-injuring. And I don't mean that. I don't want you to like think, oh my God, but I didn't think. This is not a judgment zone. This is just better understanding of what's going on and why we're doing it. And I think you're doing it out of a way of self-soothing. My self-injurers do that too. That's what self-injury gives them. It's very soothing. And so we have to find other ways to soothe, which is what I always call like building up your resources. Meaning when we start to feel in those low lows, what's something else we can do? Do we want to potentially consider medication? Maybe we do. You started seeing your therapist, maybe we should bring it up with them and get some other resources, things like impulse logs. I love, if you go to self-injury, I think it's selfinjury.org. Let me just pull it up. Selfinjury.com and go into their resources and then go to how to use the impulse control log. I love that resource and I think it is great. And so you could do some of those. Maybe you journal about it a little bit. Maybe you go for a walk. Maybe you pet an animal. Maybe you talk to a friend. Maybe you email your therapist or prepare for your next session. There's a lot of things that we can do that can be soothing and feel productive and helpful in our mental health journey rather than feeling like we're pulling ourselves down. Because sometimes, as much as, I love that my videos and podcasts and things can be helpful. Sometimes if we're already struggling, we need more of a distraction. We don't actually need more information. We already know, maybe listen to one of Sean and I's podcasts, opinions that don't matter. It's totally not helpful at all. I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense. And again, this is not a space for judgment. It's just better understanding so that we can find tools and do things a little differently so that we feel better.